Chapter 8 Social Systems. In order to build an enlightened world, it is necessary to have an infrastructure that supports souls in going within to explore the nature of the self and then to encourage them to express that inner beauty and harmony among each other. Below, we have outlined a few aspects of this new social structure, alongside a review of what needs to be released in order to allow the new structures to take root. You have no doubt noticed by now that we are creating a blend of illustrating what is out of balance with offering of possible solutions. This is because it is important to focus on all aspects of what is taking place, without downplaying the negative or obsessing on it. The problem and solution are both contained in human consciousness, and that is the primary purpose of going back and forth between problems and solutions. Let us now take a look at the present state of your social systems and offer some solutions. The end of consumerism. Your present society arises from a profoundly deep and intense inner perception of lack and scarcity. While some of this is founded in previous generations where it may have been necessary to work from sunup until sundown in the fields just to harvest enough food to keep the family alive, a lot of this goes back much farther in time. In fact, the belief in lack, scarcity goes back to the fall, original cause, the decision of souls to enter into the lower worlds and thereby forget their divine nature. As the ego self became more entrenched in the lower densities, its consciousness turned to identification with material form. Materiality became the dominant religion of the times. Believing that you are a body, mind, personality causes you to perceive the world as outside yourself, disconnected and uncaring. Your Newtonian physics augments this perception by painting the universe as a place of randomness, chance and impersonal design. If you believe your Creator does not care about you, or that you are insignificant in the scheme of things, then naturally you will do everything within your power to overcome that deep feeling of inadequacy. The first place you start is with the physical body. It appears to be flawed, weak and easily assaulted by a variety of outer occurrences, from cold and hot, to attacks from other bodies. While it certainly makes sense to clothe the body properly in extreme environments and provide for its nutritional needs, the deep sense of inadequacy arising in the ego self takes the concept of body enhancement far beyond healthy proportions. There is nothing wrong with adorning the body and enhancing its natural beauty. The problem arises when your self-worth gets tied into these enhancements. Consumerism is a form of economics that depends on soul's addiction to improving or modifying the physical body and mind in order to overcome the deep sense of inadequacy. There is always a need for more and more and more. Not just more, but better and better. Products are continually improved. While this might be beneficial to a certain degree, companies go far beyond merely improving their products. A device that is fully functional and serves its purpose is periodically discarded in favor of something that fits the latest trends, or is now in style, according to some arbitrary decision made in a boardroom somewhere. Clothing and jewelry that may serve a useful function are suddenly outdated and a new line of fashions are now in style, according to some arbitrary decision by a fashion designer somewhere, along with a whole lot of slick, glossy advertisements in trade publications, magazines, and other media. The basic message underneath consumerism is quite simple. You are inadequate and your life will get better if you buy the right brand of this or that, or more of these, or less of those. If you are advised to buy less of something, you can be sure that this is to create a temporary state of lack so that something else can be bought to fill the empty hole. The only empty hole, in reality, is the one you create in your own consciousness by believing you are lacking or limited in some way. As you let go of the belief that the one with the most toys wins, and recognize your inner prosperity, fullness and completeness, you will no longer have any desire to spend endless hours shopping in malls, or browsing through online catalogs, hoping for something that will give you sex appeal or take away wrinkles. Let us repeat this, ad nauseum. you are already beautiful, whole and complete. No clothing, jewelry, perfume, makeup, hair color, breast enhancement, or tummy tuck is going to change who you are at a fundamental level. If you want to enhance your body, fine, but do not make it into a religion. Go within and shine your light on the little self that believes it is not good enough. Talk to that part of you that might think popping a pill is going to make you better, or buying an expensive new piece of workout equipment will make you more competitive in the dating game, or belonging to the right gym will make you feel like you are in style. You are not here on earth to impress others or get them to like you. Once you unravel the approval-seeking aspect of ego and start to honor your own natural rhythms, you withdraw yourself from the merry-go-round of consumerism. The latest pop culture icon no longer holds any meaning for you. You stop spending money you do not have on things you do not need. You remove yourself from the debt merry-go-round as well, helping the old system return to the dust where it belongs. A memoir of a time when the ego ruled the roost and foxes, corporate advertisers, guarded the henhouse, the welfare of the people. Specific things you can do to reduce consumerism. The most important thing you can do is take stock of what you truly need versus your ego desires. We do not recommend simply railroading over your ego, or attempting to force it into submission. Feeling deprived will only create further conflict within the self. Nevertheless, start by seeing how efficient you can be in your overall lifestyle. Begin with simple things like turning off light switches, installing power strips that save energy, driving a little slower and accelerating gently, reusing plastic bottles, keeping them cool to avoid chemical leaching, or better yet, using and reusing glass bottles, and reclaiming wastewater. Buy as many things as you can that are gently used, pre-owned, especially clothing. Use paper made from recycled fiber. Buy energy-efficient appliances. Use perishable products that are made from recycled materials. Turn off the television set. Shop online. Go to farmers markets or grow your own produce. Cook your own food or support restaurants that buy local produce. Use debit cards instead of credit cards for most purchases, or pay off your credit cards each month. Learn to design on a dime when remodeling your home. Grow plants that are appropriate to your climate. Avoid lawns that require constant maintenance and mowing. Boycott any golf courses that do not use recycled water. Use composting toilets if you are in a rural area. In our section on intentional communities, we will cover a few common sense principles for installing wind, hydro and solar power. Most of all, spend your time wisely. Invest in your own spiritual growth. Attend workshops on personal development. Listen to beautiful, uplifting music. Meditate. Walk in nature. Do not simply fill up your time with endless activity because you are bored or want to avoid unpleasant feelings. Let go of workaholic behaviors and take some downtime. Downsize both your lifestyle and your mind. Teach your children the difference between wants and needs. The only true needs human beings have, besides food, water, clothing and shelter, would be a loving environment with supportive people. Do your best to provide that to the people in your lives. Encourage them to think for themselves and to take responsibility for their emotions. Have regular get-togethers with live music, drumming, singing, dancing and potluck. Living and eating naturally will greatly reduce the chances of contracting chronic or serious illness, which will in turn help you avoid the pitfalls described in our next section, medical care. The medical system. Even your most die-hard traditionalists and business-as-usual advocates admit that the medical system in most highly developed countries has broken down. In fact, things are going to get a lot worse in that regard. Whether you live in a private, for-profit medical system, or one that is subsidized by government, the problems are essentially the same. The following account is especially true of medical care that exists in the private, for-profit segment of the medical profession, but many of the points are equally valid in a government-subsidized environment. Let us start with medications. Most drugs are designed to treat symptoms, rather than causes. This is because it is often extremely difficult to understand and reverse the root cause of an illness, particularly if it is chronic, genetic, or not well understood by the medical community. Very few allopathic practitioners and drug companies understand the holistic element and the fact that you have multiple levels of being that must come into alignment and integration in order for true healing to take place. Your drug companies exist for the purpose of enriching the pocketbooks of their owners and investors. For the most part, they do not have your best interests or your health in mind. They make money when you get sick, not when you stay well. A healthy population will not buy drugs to make themselves feel better, or to give themselves the illusion of being better. You cannot open a magazine that accepts advertising without seeing several ads for the latest pills, potions and medical devices. We have noted that the area of the advertisement listing the side effects for each medication is often larger than the part devoted to extolling the virtues of the drug being pushed. On television commercials, more time is spent going over the side effects than describing the benefits of the drug, even though the lawyers are speaking so quickly that most consumers cannot grasp every word. In essence, they are attempting to cover their backside in the likely event that their drug causes serious problems for some who take it. In fact, we also note that more people die from negative side effects, drug complications, adverse reactions with other medications, incorrect dosage, errors in administering drugs, etc., than from many of the diseases, syndromes, maladies and aberrations that the drugs are supposed to cure, prevent, reduce or suppress. We are not saying there is no need for pharmaceutical drugs, but we are saying that probably 90% of them are unnecessary and even dangerous to your physical well-being. We observe your children being given antidepressants simply because they are bored with your classroom curriculum and cannot stay focused on yet another lesson in sanitized, approved history. The children being born today are highly evolved. As soon as they enter this world, they are subjected to a barrage of stimuli designed to get them to forget who they are and become a consumer. We realize this sounds harsh and judgmental, but it is important not to sugarcoat the negative programming souls get when they enter into the earth plane. Not only do they get the genetics of their ancestors, many of whom were totally caught in limiting beliefs, but they pick up on the thought forms of parents, doctors, nurses, caretakers, family members, ministers, priests, and anyone else who comes into their lives at an early age. Add to this the constant assault of television and the media, and it is little wonder why they rebel, disconnect, or get confused. Oftentimes, parents, who are already overworked and stressed out, will simply cave in to what seems like an easy solution. Give little Johnny a pill to help him concentrate, or slow him down, or speed him up, or somehow make him better. Of course, your medical system consists of more than just pills and potions. You have a wide range of healthcare professionals, some highly skilled and quite compassionate, and others who may have studied their textbooks, passed their exams, gotten their degrees, and done their internship, but have little understanding of what it means to be a human being. Without a highly developed intuition and the ability to tune in and be totally present with another person, it is often very difficult to know what that person needs to regain health. Even if a technological advance temporarily reverses a serious disease, or a pill manages to ward off infection, how many healthcare professionals ask the obvious question, what did this person do to get sick in the first place? Fortunately, we have observed a significant rise in the number of holistic practitioners and healers over the past 50 years. Many of the lightworkers and those on the 4th and 5th density paths have gotten to where they are with the help of enlightened caregivers, therapists and teachers. In addition to the 20 to 25% of humanity already on the path of awakening, an additional 5% or so of humanity is ready to wake up, but does not know where to turn for help. So they reach for a pill, or call a doctor, or read a magazine offering solutions. Just have your Visa or MasterCard ready. You, the lightworkers, might be their next real step in the healing process. We offer our support and encouragement to those of you who are building a bridge between the holistic and allopathic medical fields. We know it is not easy to get doctors and nurses to open their minds to new ways of thinking about healing, but little by little, progress is being made. As you witness the breakdown of the current medical system, know that you are part of the solution. By demonstrating that true health comes from within and involves living your life in harmony with your inner selves and the environment, you show this 5% of the population that there is another way to achieve true and lasting health. The future of medicine. What is the future of your medical system? From a 3rd density perspective, it does not look good. Despite the rise of holistic medical practices and encouraging research in many areas, the vast majority of healthcare professionals are caught in a web of greed, oppression and control. Over the next several years, the problems with allopathic medicine and quality of healthcare will become more and more obvious. Most caregivers will feel even more overwhelmed than they already are, and with good reason. We touched on some of the immune system problems in our previous dissertations, but let's look a little deeper now. As we stated earlier, souls that are not ready to ascend with the Earth will find a way of exiting their physical bodies and reincarnating on planets better suited to their level of vibration. This process will accelerate dramatically during the portal shifts. Because the ego is almost invariably at odds with the soul, there will be a conflict within the self between the part that wants to move on into another lifetime, the soul, and the part that wants to stay on Earth, the ego, personality. Perhaps such a soul has attachments to family, friends, lifestyle and material things, and has a deep sense of duty and obligation to take care of others. The thought of leaving all this behind is less than appealing. So this soul will be constantly looking for ways of prolonging life on Earth even though the body continues to deteriorate. This superficial desire to resurrect the body, combined with a deeper desire to let go of it, often results in chronic, prolonged illness. In fact, it is a formula for a return of the plagues common in Europe about 800 years ago. And where and when you can do it, so that you, too, do not get burned out. Ask your God presence to bring you just as many patients, clients or customers as you can handle. Receiving compensation for your work is secondary, but important. You will be provided for as you do your healing work. Simply be open, take care of your own physical, emotional and mental needs, and give compassionately as the need arises. Trust that you are part of a benevolent, prosperous universe. On the other hand, if you are guided by your higher self to devise a business plan or marketing program to make others aware of your services, then do so willingly and without judgment. There is nothing wrong with tooting your horn, as long as the primary purpose of your business is service to others. Let us repeat: take time for yourselves. If you are a personal caregiver, do not accept 3 12-hour back-to-back assignments if you know that you cannot be fully present for the third person. The dynamics of holistic healing and therapy. If you are a healer, some of your clients will benefit greatly from your healing work and others will not. Give up any investment you might have in the outcome of your services. Just do your best, pray, and be compassionate. If you receive guidance to try a specific healing technique on a client, that's great. Otherwise, simply be present. In therapy, the ability to be present and truly listen to another human being is roughly 90% of the process. Technique is only about 10%. The psychotherapist that concentrates on how to be fully present and how to listen, but forgets all the academics, is far better off than the one who studies religiously but is disconnected from his human side. Jesus, during his time on the earth, did not give miracle healings to everyone who came to him. In fact, only a small percentage of souls were instantly healed. Those that were healed quickly were ready for such an experience. Their souls had already completed many of the lessons necessary in order to move on from a state of sickness to a state of health. Jesus simply became the catalyst for the completion of the process. You will not always know how your presence has affected those who come to you for help. Sometimes it will be obvious, but people are complex. You might be exactly the right person at the right time to help a soul transition out of this lifetime. Do not judge yourselves if you give someone a healing and then that person dies the next day. Give thanks that you may have been the boost needed for that soul to go on. In the years to come on Earth, holistic healing will become more widely recognized as an answer to many of the medical problems of today. More and more doctors are turning away from strictly allopathic medicine and are embracing new ways of treating patients. It may take dead bodies piling up in the streets, or a serious plague amidst a segment of the population, before most people break out of their limited thinking. You might be part of a group of souls that appear to be immune to everything around them. This group may inspire others to raise the question, what is different about those people? They can walk among the dead and be unaffected. How can I learn how to do that? And there you have an opportunity to bring another soul into the light. Communication in the electronic age. Let us change gears at this point and discuss another aspect of the social scene on Earth during the portal shifts. Unless you have been living in a cave, or in the wilderness, you have certainly noticed the plethora of gadgets and resulting subculture that has emerged from your era of telecommunications. Despite the likely interruption of your satellites and electronic systems during some future events, these devices will continue to garner a lot of attention in the years to come, especially in the younger generation. You have your mobile telephones, handheld computers, game consoles, navigational devices, and others, but presently, the telephone and internet are the most popular communication mediums. You have an entire generation of young souls immersed in cyberspace. Some have nearly forgotten the art of simple verbal communication, preferring instead to text each other in a language all their own. This virtual reality is an aspect of the fourth dimension, and certainly comes natural to souls vibrating at fourth density. Most of the children coming into the earth now are at that level, while a few are fifth density and above. These fourth density children pick up easily on the new electronics, much to the consternation of the older generation that might need weeks to master a simple function on a new device. Within hours of receiving a new phone or computer, they have navigated their way through a maze of instructions and code and are once again lost in cyberspace. The cyber world that has emerged parallel to the other dimensions of space and time is so prevalent that we can accurately call it a subplane of the fourth dimension. The souls enmeshed in this reality are actually creating fourth-dimensional constructs, and their adventures in cyberspace will significantly impact their ability to move with the new Earth. Some will use their cyber skills to develop new technologies that benefit the fourth-density souls of future Earth. Others will cycle out of this world and reincarnate on worlds that eerily match the worlds within their computers. You might have noticed that a lot of the video games currently being marketed look like something out of the Orion Wars hundreds of thousands of years ago. This is intentional. The old Orion energies still control the majority of humans on this planet. While some might argue that cyberspace gives them an opportunity to work out their aggression without actually harming real human beings, others will point out that devoting time to killing and war strategies will tend to attract those realities in the outer world sooner or later. Regardless of the pros and cons of video game immersion, focusing constantly on anything outside of self can give rise to denial of emotions. There is also something to be said for interpersonal communication. That is the kind where people actually talk face to face, looking in each other's eyes, acknowledging facial expressions, observing body posture and movement, looking for nonverbal signals, and critically evaluating what is being said from a higher mind perspective. None of this is likely when texting, sending email, or otherwise avoiding real physical contact with another soul. We ask you, how many of these young souls immersed in technology are aware of their innermost self? How many express their feelings eloquently and succinctly? How many have quality relationships? While some obviously do, the vast majority are using technology more to escape than to face the realities confronting humankind. Please understand. We are not judging video games, mobile telephones and so-called geeks and nerds. Your society benefits greatly from technologically minded souls. Yet it is clear to us that the majority of these souls are way out of balance and are using cyberspace to avoid dealing with the unpleasantness of life on Earth. You can see applications of cyber mentality in the direction in which your wars have gone in recent years. Armchair strategists guiding bombs from a computer console marvel at how they can watch buildings being blown up from the comfort of their military outpost. This is a lot more palatable than being witness to arms and legs being blown off in the blast, or watching children with blood dripping down their faces as they observe mommy and daddy being carried away in body bags. Wars continue because there is a separation between the intellect and the heart, to use a popular overly simplified explanation. A whole human being, in touch with the deeper aspects of self, cannot simply ignore the suffering inherent within war. Some of today's youth will learn to be compassionate and caring and will outgrow their occupation with violent video games, while others will go on to manufacture their own weapons of mass destruction, on some other planet. In the meantime, we urge you who are reading this book to reach out to your young people and engage them in meaningful conversation. Seek to understand the part of them that hides behind the video screen. Do not condemn or judge their way of life, but let them know that theirs is a limited view of reality. Yours is not necessarily better, but it offers another perception that might be of value to them. As your economies continue to weaken, there may not be extra money for many to buy more gadgets. Educate your children now to appreciate the things in life that do not cost big bucks. Spend time with them in nature, outside of the range of mobile transmission towers. Turn off the television set. Unplug the computer. Start with 1 day a week. Give them the option to come up with activities that do not depend on technology. Assign them part of your garden plot and let them do anything with it they desire. Show them your flower and vegetable seeds and give them a book on how to plant. If they want to garden with you, be available to them. Go for hiking and camping trips. Try out whitewater rafting. Take a trip to the beach. Read a book together, the old-fashioned way, one with paper and binding. Encourage them to exercise their bodies. A diet of McDonald's with Coca-Cola, gulped in between downloads of video files, will not add to their health. If you hold the purse strings, you have a say in what they eat and what they do with their bodies. We are not suggesting a militant approach, but you are responsible for their safety, and it is simply not safe to allow them a sedentary lifestyle. It is difficult for young people to understand that they are okay even if they do not have the latest game console like the neighbors. Surely, many of them can see that things are not going very smoothly in the world at large, but most have not made the connection between their way of life and the problems in the world. While on one level, they are not responsible for the way things are out there, on another level, we are all one. While they lounge in the den with their handheld device, the child starving down the street is a part of them, whether they realize it or not. sooner or later they must come out of denial. We are not advocating that your children must grow up to full maturity at age 15. However, the years to come on Earth will demand a new level of awareness that very few have awakened to. The ones being born today are highly advanced, yet consumerism and electronic gadgets can veer them off their spiritual path. Whatever details embody the path of today's children, self-discovery needs to be at the top of the list. Your responsibility is to demonstrate this in your own lives and to encourage them to go deeper within. Releasing the work ethic. The work ethic is drummed into every human being genetically, as well as socially. There is a great deal of collective trauma around lifetimes where souls had to do a lot of physical labor just in order to survive. From a soul perspective, this was a learning experience. I am going to incarnate into a poverty-stricken region of Russia, during wheat crop failure and immense famine, to see what that feels like, says the adventurous soul. Remember, the soul does not evaluate and judge experiences. It just seeks to have as many as possible while embodying in the lower worlds. Due to the severity of the experience in some lifetimes, the core negative belief, "I must struggle to survive," gets programmed deeply into the subconscious mind. Even when it becomes obvious that scientific advances, medical technologies, and new agricultural methods and distribution systems can deliver food, water and medicine to every man, woman and child on this planet, the belief in struggle invariably helps sabotage attempts to bring the world to a place of abundance and prosperity. On the surface, it may look as though political and religious systems are preventing distribution of supplies and are keeping souls ignorant of the natural laws of nutrition and agriculture. But beneath these literal roadblocks are the deeply ingrained patterns of lack and scarcity, beliefs which have been with humanity since original cause. Once you identify with your little human self, life indeed seems to be a struggle. Even when you take a little downtime and try to relax, pretty soon your mind is cooking up new strategies. You must keep busy, it reminds you, lest you forget something important. Although there is a lot to be done in today's world, when properly guided there is also time for doing nothing, especially in the Western society. Our readers vary from extremely wealthy, to possessing no money or material things, other than a borrowed computer or library book and the ability to read this. Yet without exception, every one of you can take a day off somewhere in your schedule without your world completely falling apart. Underneath the work ethic is the fear that if you do not work hard enough, something bad will happen. In some places, the work ethic is so strong that there are actual systems set in place to punish those who do not produce fast enough, such as in the sweatshops. In this case, the fear is passed from top management all the way through the ranks, although the perspective is different depending on the level. The executive is in great fear that he will not make his quota, or profit margin, while the laborer is in fear he will be laid off if he does not move fast enough on the assembly line. The ability to truly relax and do nothing is one of the keys to enlightenment. But to do that would mean facing the various aspects of the self involved in the obsession with busyness, as well as numerous emotions, some of which are quite uncomfortable. Notice that many of you who meditate still have moments when you feel you should be doing something else. Or you find yourselves filling up your idle time with mindless activity, lest you come face to face with the loneliness that lurks underneath your endless social engagements. In the new earth, everyone will contribute in some way, but first, all souls will become educated in exactly what is most important and why. Creating a beautiful, harmonious environment will be high on the list. That means lots of work for carpenters, plumbers, electricians, designers, engineers, etc., but it also means lots of opportunities for gardeners, artists, sculptors, painters, musicians, and entertainers. The value of a product or service will be based on how well it contributes to the good of the community. Those elected as council members of a community will interact with the members and get their feedback. They will pose questions such as, "How do you feel about that painting?" Or, "What would it be like to have that building over there?" Everyone would be given an opportunity to voice a concern or appreciation. These things would start at the grassroots level, perhaps initially involving only a few people in each section of the community, before gradually spreading out into the world at large. It may be too much to take on a large city with your ideas, but some of them can be managed within an extended household or neighborhood block. Our advice is similar to what the channel often advises to his clients: take baby steps. Do not try to save the world in one day. Work together with a few of your closest friends and family to break out of the work ethic and do what you truly love to do. Find your right place. If everyone on Earth were doing what they love to do, there would be no problem finding enough souls to perform the necessary tasks to keep a community running. Some of you may be saying, "I do not know what I really want to be doing. I just know it is not what I am doing at present." There are various tools and techniques for discovering your passion. Ask the channel or another therapist to help you get in touch with your true desires. In every case, the things that bring you the greatest joy in life will be connected to your soul's purpose and mission. It is important to focus on those things even if you cannot imagine a practical way of earning income or having a business in those areas. Restructuring your lives to accommodate your true desires and joys is not easy. It requires making a commitment to doing a little bit every day to move in the direction of your dreams. Even if all you can seem to afford is a half hour every day, make and take the time. If necessary, put it into your appointment book. Block out a period to devote to doing what you love most in life. At first, do not worry about how you will turn it into a business. Just immerse yourselves in the joyful expression of your life path. Later, you can work out the details of how to manifest your dreams in ways that bring prosperity and balance. This channel has a simple creative writing exercise to help facilitate doing what you love to do and getting well paid for it. If you are not clear on what you would like to be doing, contact him. Enlightened social systems. To have an enlightened culture, you must have enlightened relationships. This means providing everyone with basic education about how to relate, something that is not taught in most schools on Earth today. The high crime rate in many nations is due primarily to lack of love during early childhood as well as general discord in the family and relatives of evolving souls. Of course, many of you come from parents who may have said that they loved you numerous times while growing up, and we do not doubt that familial love did exist in many cases, but to love unconditionally means accepting you just the way you are, not just outwardly with periodic affection. It means caring not only for your safety, but encouraging your feelings deep inside. This means growing up in an environment where both your humanness and spirituality are nurtured and sustained. That is not very common in most parts of the earth. Parents have their human weaknesses, as you well know, and there is no such thing as a perfect parent. Raising children is difficult and requires constant awareness and focus. Many parents have children before they are mature enough to provide spiritual and psychological nurturing. This issue goes far back in your history. However, in many tribal systems of the past, there were rites of passage and special ceremonies devoted to acknowledging and supporting the various phases of growing up and maturing. Your modern society has very few of these that are still intact. Often, both parents are working, assuming they are even still together. Children growing up in a single-parent household, or those that spend a majority of their childhood with both parents working, comprise a majority of the households in the Western countries today. In addition, your educational systems are geared toward turning out productive workers. Curriculum is designed to get you to fit into the existing society, to prepare you for the workplace. Part of establishing an enlightened social system is in realizing that the children being born today do not have the same background as a generation ago. Many are from the stars, quite literally, and do not understand human life. They have come here to teach and heal. Recognizing this, it is your job as parents to provide them with teachers that allow both right and left brain learning, combining intuitive and logical reasoning. As you heal your own inner child issues, it becomes easier to provide clear guidance to your children. In the meantime, your children are mirrors. They know how to push your buttons, and also how to heal, if you give them a chance. They might not know a lot intellectually, particularly if they are only a few years old, but they know intuitively. If your children seem to be clashing with you, look within and see what aspects of self are clashing with each other. What feelings are going unexpressed? It is well known that children tend to act out the subconscious issues of their parents. In this sense, they are offering you a gift because in some cases you might not even be aware of a negative emotional pattern unless little Sally painfully points it out. Parenting is tricky, because you need to set firm boundaries and assume responsibility for the safety of your children, while at the same time allowing them as much freedom as they need to grow and evolve with as few limiting beliefs as possible. In other words, all of you are unlimited beings living in a limited environment, for the time being. You start by learning about the limitations, boundaries, and then growing and evolving beyond the need for limitations. Eventually, you will even transcend your so-called physical limitations, but you must start with the basics. Let us zero in now on our perceptions regarding your personal relationships. Enlightened relationships. Dear creators, have you noticed how hard it is to get along with each other? As if we had to remind you. Some souls seem to do just fine with family, friends and even business associates, but when it comes to an intimate partner, all bets are off. Most enlightened souls we have encountered during our time with Earth have learned how to find peace in virtually every situation except with a mate. With a very close person, you tend to let down your barriers because you feel safe enough to do so. Therefore, anything that is unresolved within your own being will have permission to come out and be expressed. In addition, many couples are drawn together precisely for the purpose of working out karmic issues they might have accrued during less than enlightening past lives. Even if you are evolved to the point where you no longer have any past karma, you will likely attract a partner who will mirror those aspects of yourselves that are not yet integrated. You might not have consciously chosen each other for this reason, but on another level your souls recognized the opportunity to grow and evolve more quickly by having your partner constantly mirror the areas where you still need work. In some cases, such couples are able to attain a level of acceptance of each other that keeps the relationship together, but often they turn their judgments and unresolved emotional issues inward on themselves. The refrain goes something like this: I do so well when I am by myself. I seem integrated, balanced and centered. Yet when I spend time with my partner, I am constantly being shown that I do not really have it all together. I am upset at myself for not being able to stay calm and centered around my partner. If such a soul were not an ego, there might be a great deal of gratitude toward both self and partner. After all, if it were not for the agreement of the couple to help each other heal these stubborn issues, they might go unhealed until such a time as the issues truly hindered the ascension process. A more enlightened refrain goes like this: thank God for my partner for showing me what I need to heal so I can get on with it. Otherwise, I might have deluded myself into thinking I had already integrated these issues. To assist enlightened partners in truly enjoying their time together, it is important to remember that the soul in front of you is both human and divine. Here is an opportunity to love the human side of your partner and yourself, as well as the divine in each other. Of course, we are assuming you already know about and are practicing good listening skills and are separating behavior from essence. Using nonviolent communication and other techniques can be helpful. The old psychological adage, "What I hear you saying is," can be a most effective mirroring tool. Adding to this a withhold process, such as, "Something I've been withholding from you is," or, "Something I've held back saying is," will greatly assist the communication process. The object is not to confront or force confession of things, but to be truly open, with active listening on the part of the one receiving the communication. The best communication is nonverbal. It involves giving your whole attention to the other person without rehearsing what you are going to say next. Make eye contact. Notice your body movement and posture without judging. Notice the same with your partner, again without judging. Remind yourselves that the purpose of the relationship is to assist each other in growing, learning, unfolding and rejoicing in the beauty of life. You are whole, complete souls simply desiring to share your lives with each other. You are not a half seeking the other half in order to become whole. That type of relationship is doomed to failure. Even if you stay married for 50 years to your other half, as long as you hold that view, there is some degree of stagnation in your growth process. You will find that no amount of mediocre time spent together will replace a few high-quality years with someone that is ready to grow and evolve quickly with you. The other person is never the source of your happiness. Your God presence within you is. Your partner might mirror a blissful state to you, or be a catalyst for you to get through a sticky issue and into a joyful space, but you are responsible for your own state of consciousness. The best relationships are those where the partners have a lot in common, but not so much as to take away the spice and variety of life. You want to be different, but not so different that you are incompatible. Having a variety of common interests and a lot of differences can be a wonderful thing. Sometimes you want to be complementary, meaning that the areas where you are weak are your partner's strengths and vice versa. Other times you want to co-create something that requires both of you to be strong. If you are not in a relationship and wish to attract a partner, it is best to state clearly to your God presence the attributes and qualities you want in a partner. These should be values such as, a good listener, compassionate, committed, emotionally mature, etc. It is not appropriate to focus on specifics, such as body type, income, likes and dislikes, etc. A general affirmative statement with some embedded specifics, such as, I am attracting a sexually compatible and financially stable mate and we have many common interests, is okay. Some of the bolder of you might say, I want to attract a partner who will be a catalyst for my spiritual growth. I want someone who will challenge me and show me where my weak spots are. That's great, and most likely you will get what you ask for. Just remember to give thanks even when the mirror you receive from another feels uncomfortable. You are living in a time when soul family members are finding each other and coming back together while in physical form. Although it is rare for twin flames to be embodied on Earth at the same time, many of what this channel calls secondary soul family members are likely to come into your life in the years ahead. These are soulmates, beings that you have a deep connection with from other lifetimes or dimensions. You are coming together because you are advanced souls and want to learn about co-creation, a higher way of relating than competition. Eventually, all of you will feel a deep connection with everyone and everything, because you will learn to recognize the oneness in all. As you grow and evolve, the quality of consciousness of those you attract will mirror your own consciousness more and more, based on the law of attraction. There will be fewer souls attracted to you as students and teachers, except in structured learning environments where this is desirable. You are here to co-create heaven on earth. To do this, you need a lot of compatible souls that share your basic values and goals. You need similar levels of commitment and willingness to tell the truth, no matter what. Sometimes differences can be worked out through communication processes and structured learning. Other times the differences are just too great and it is necessary to go separate ways. Learning to recognize when it's time to roll up your sleeves and get to work on resolving a relationship issue, and when it is time to say goodbye, requires a great deal of patience, diligence and listening to your heart. Empowering each other. When souls finally transcend the ego and live from the center of being, empowerment will no longer be an issue. In the meantime, we wish to give a few pointers on what it means to be in an empowering relationship. Even though most of you are familiar with the concept of win-win, especially in business, you also have within your cellular structure a lot of third density patterns hardwired into the physical body relating to survival, competition, and other behaviors geared toward self-preservation. In addition, you still have some elements of societal programming that say you need this or that in order to be successful. You are taught to be in control of your environment, which includes the people around you. The requirements for true empowerment of others are as follows. 1. You must know, beyond all doubt, that your well-being adds to the well-being of others, and their well-being adds to yours. When they are successful, you are genuinely happy for them, even if there is no direct benefit to you that is readily apparent. 2. You have examined and healed any and all hidden motives you may have had toward others. These motives may include seeing them as potential clients or romantic partners, wanting their love and approval, wanting agreement with your ideas and concepts, wanting to convince them of a perceived truth about some aspect of reality, or otherwise wanting to control their attitudes and behavior. 3. You are able to go beyond the words and labels regarding others. They are not simply men, women, large, small, educated or otherwise. They are powerful, vast spiritual beings. You are able to tune into them energetically and perceive the incredible beings they are beyond their physical appearance. As you tune into others, you begin to recognize their true needs, which may be different from their human desires. You learn to communicate higher self to higher self, rather than personality to personality. You learn to telepath. There is simply a knowing that goes beyond all descriptions or methods. In essence, you become one with the other. When you enter this state of divine recognition, your actions toward others become empowering. This is not something you train to do, it flows out of you naturally because you know and love your neighbor as yourself. The best method of empowerment is tuning in deeply to the essence of others. Ask your own God self. What can I do to maximize the soul growth, happiness and well-being of this person? Then listen for the answer. Sometimes the answer will advise doing nothing, or simply being quiet and receptive. Other times you might be called to intervene in the affairs of the other person. There is no set formula for what to do, it varies from person to person depending on many factors. Do not get hung up in psychological theories or past results with clients if you are a therapist. Tune in right now to the other. Be totally present. Be actively quiet. Simply know and feel the presence of this soul or souls in front of you. Do not put labels on what you experience. You can do this process with your significant other, best friend, any one person, or a group of persons, with or without their knowledge. You are not violating anyone's free will or intruding. You are simply being in the presence of another being. Together, you are one being expressing through two or more bodies. This ability to truly be one with each other will be essential in the years to come on Earth. Feeling your oneness will make the journey into enlightened community flow more easily. The next chapter will explore some of the details of intentional communities. As discussed in Chapter 1, it is not easy to build an intentional community, but this will be the way of the future for fourth density Earth. If you are planning to be here on Earth through the galactic shift, it is imperative to understand what it means to be in community. You are interdependent. That means that you are an individual, but your personal well-being is part of a collective well-being. Interdependency does not mean conformity, colony, or any form of socialism. Within the group consciousness, you have your own sovereign identity. A group that is truly interdependent does not violate the free will of its members, nor try to get them to think or feel or act a certain way. Conformity is a third density quality, while individuality is fourth density and true interdependence is fifth density. The intentional communities described in Chapter 9 make use of this idea, which recognizes that every person's viewpoint is valid and contributes in some way to the growth and evolution of the community. Let us now explore the new social paradigm of community that is emerging and will blossom in the coming years on Earth. Chapter 9. Intentional communities. There are over 1,000 communities worldwide that fit our definition of intentional community. We are not including cities and towns that grew up without a specific intention, but later became united or bonded through the efforts of their members. There are hundreds of thousands of tight-knit communities, but they are not set up intentionally with every member in mind. Their ability to transition into a true intentional community is there because they have the advantage of already having a degree of bonding. We are also not counting the hundreds of thousands of extended families that share one or two houses on a small piece of property, but are not organized with regular council meetings and structured tasks and functions. Another category we have omitted is cooperative housing, or eco-housing, co-housing, which is essentially a small, perhaps enlightened homeowners association or cooperative building project that may involve a single building, or dozens of buildings. In its place, we have included the eco-village, a step forward from co-housing that is more directly focused on community, rather than simply property sharing. Below, we have delineated intentional communities into three major categories. Eco-villages. The closest model for setting up an existing town or city as an intentional community is the eco-village. The idea here is that everyone within the village participates in both individual housing and one or more community centers directly operated by the individual homeowners. Each homeowner is part of an association, but it is truly of, by and for the people, and not set up by only a portion of the community. Every adult member of an eco-village has an equal share in how the community is run. The village has a charter, set of goals, purposes and objectives, and lives according to ideals that must be agreed upon by its members. Some eco-villages might have as their primary focus affordable housing, or ecological sustainability. Perhaps they co-own a power generation facility, or have agreed to all install solar panels on the roofs of each building. The advantages of the eco-village style of intentional community is that it affords a high degree of privacy, while at the same time bringing people together of similar consciousness who want to collectively create a different lifestyle or way of living. An example of this form of community would be the eco-village at Ithaca, NY. Spiritual communities. There are two types of spiritual communities, those with a guru or central leader and those with no central person. Of those that have a leader, there are some with an active, living teacher and some based on the teachings of an enlightened saint or guru that has passed from embodiment. The other type of spiritual community may make use of the teachings of various gurus or masters, but is not bound by any of their creeds or doctrines. Members of a specific community might model their lives after a particular saint, sage or rishi, but souls are free to explore other teachings at any time, as long as those principles are in harmony with the basic tenets of the group. An example of the first type of spiritual community is the Ananda village in Nevada City, California, based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, as taught by one of his students, Swami Kriyananda. An example of the second type of spiritual community would be any one of a number of communities based around A Course in Miracles, a teaching brought forth in the late 1970s by a woman channeling Lord Sananda, the Oversoul of Jesus. The advantage of spiritual communities is that they keep members focused on spiritual progress. If the leader or teacher is quite enlightened, the teachings will encourage personal empowerment and freedom, rather than strict adherence to rules and regulations. Those communities that rely too heavily on the leader and encourage members to abdicate personal responsibility are in danger of becoming a cult. Cults are defined as religious or spiritual communities wherein most or all personal power is given to the leader, either consciously or unconsciously, overtly or covertly. The cult leader amasses personal power at the expense of the members. The core negative belief attributed to cults is the idea that someone, the leader, is more spiritual, or better, than the individual members, and that the members cannot attain enlightenment without the grace of the master. You can observe the workings of a community to determine whether or not power is concentrated in the leader at the center, or whether power is distributed throughout the community. Healthy spiritual communities consist of members that are free to leave, question the values of the leader, engage in dialogue with members of other communities that have different leaders, embrace multiple spiritual paths, and that are focused on self-empowerment. Communes. Communes are typically set up with a minimum of personal freedom and an emphasis on the status of the group as a whole. Despite the low emphasis on personal freedom, some communes may appear to be based on anarchy, or people engaging in various anti-social behaviors, often with wild abandon. These are merely protests against the status quo and have little to do with real freedom. The healthiest type of commune is really an extended family, and usually consists of amorous individuals, people with multiple sexual partners, who have simply decided to live together and pool their resources. Not all communes are sexually amorous, but the intimacy and shared nature of the community resources often arises out of some form of amorous lifestyle. Commune members typically do not own any property, other than personal items, such as jewelry and clothing. All larger items are shared among the community members, including cars, houses, land and debt. There may be a central member who has legal custody of property, or each member's name might appear on the deeds and contracts. The advantage of communes is that they are living examples of the oneness of human beings. The disadvantage is that there is very little personal freedom, and usually very little privacy. The most successful communes are those run by people who have worked through their issues regarding intimate relationships, which is not a very large group of humans. Often, amorous people have simply suppressed their emotional issues and have convinced themselves that they can maintain their lifestyle without hurting themselves or others, even though they may have a lot of issues that are in denial. A few amorous individuals may have truly transcended limiting beliefs and emotions regarding intimacy, but they are in an extreme minority. Other community structures. There are communities that combine some of the aspects of the eco-village, spiritual community and commune, into a new synthesis of enlightened living. For example, some communities may have a leader or teacher that is not particularly spiritual, but has special knowledge of ecology, sustainability, gardening, farming, or some other skill or discipline. While each member may have his or her own guru or religion, they share a combined interest in the skill or discipline of their leader. With very few exceptions, anarchy has not been fully realized in any of the communities on Earth of which we are aware. There are some individuals who have co-purchased land, or who live on land trusts, and essentially do their own thing, but graciously and with a friendly attitude toward each other. They might make some decisions as a group, but generally they leave a lot up to each member, as long as he or she does not infringe on the rights of the other members. Usually, these semi-anarchistic communities are not self-sufficient. Members work outside the community, making this arrangement little more than just co-housing. The few communities that are close-knit and structured, but that do not have a central leader, usually consist of individuals who have done a lot of work on themselves. They are typically therapists, healers and personal growth consultants, and they are more or less experimenting with different lifestyles and living arrangements. Their success depends heavily on regular meetings where they work out their differences and come to consensus on shared goals and visions. An example of this type of community is the Hummingbird Ranch, near Mora, New Mexico, in the USA. In order for a community to thrive without a strong leader, people need to take a lot of responsibility for their own feelings, thoughts and actions. Usually, membership in such a community is highly restricted. Members must vote unanimously, and often after much consideration, before admitting new members. Anyone who might be overly dependent on others, or unwilling to share in the tasks and chores, or whose lifestyle is just too different, will not be admitted. This is not a case of judging potential members, or making them wrong in some way, or being an exclusive clique, or discriminating. It is a question of each existing member going with inner guidance and checking it out with the other members. Does it feel right to admit this potential member? Would this person truly fit into the structure of the community? Would this person have a good chance of being happy and well-adjusted in this community? Some communities fail because they allow just about anyone in, regardless of their level of evolvement. Members of existing communities have the free will right to choose who to let in and who to refuse. Our advice in this matter is similar to our advice for your personal relationships. Send love and compassion to all souls in your own life who are not right for you, and then send them on their way in peace. It is important to let go of any sense of obligation you might have toward your fellow human beings. You do not have to say yes to everyone in order to be loving and compassionate. Sometimes it is not worth it to invest your time and energy in someone who is unwilling to grow and change in positive directions. This is what Lord Sananda meant by the phrase, "Do not cast your pearls before swine." Likewise, in communities, it is your right and responsibility to make decisions that truly benefit the members of your community and the world at large, even if it means saying no to prospective members. When choosing to become a part of an existing intentional community, or when admitting new members to a community of which you are already a part, remember that a high state of consciousness attracts others who are at a similar level of vibration, most of the time. There will be exceptions, especially when there are unresolved soul lessons to be learned. For example, a discordant potential member might show up in order to teach you the soul lesson of discernment and setting firm boundaries by saying no. This same soul may need to learn a soul lesson around integrity, or cleaning up his own inner act before expecting to be admitted into a harmonious community. The reverse is, of course, true as well. Souls who are existing members of a community that admit a person that is disruptive and destructive to the purposes of the community have a soul lesson to learn about setting firmer boundaries, i.e., learning to say no. The disruptive member who is admitted may also have a soul lesson to learn. He may have attracted loving, compassionate people into his life in order to teach him love and compassion. Once such a soul is part of a community and everyone concerned decides they will just have to make do with each other, the overriding soul lesson may be learning to accept what is, and discovering new ways of giving and receiving love and compassion between the new and old members of the community. Certainly, it is not always necessary to know, from an intellectual standpoint, what the soul lesson is in every potential situation that may arise regarding intentional communities, or any other aspect of life for that matter. Some souls on Earth will look for a deep lesson every time the slightest imperfection, or aberration, shows up in their nearly perfect lifetime, from their perspective. For example, if you trip over a stone and bruise your foot, does it really mean you have negative karma? Perhaps the soul lesson is more simple: watch where you are going. How to set up a community. Setting up an intentional community does involve a certain amount of trial and error. That is because you cannot know, with certainty, every free will decision that members and potential members are going to make. You can stay alert, aware and receptive to the energies of others and make some relatively wise decisions together, but there will always be unexpected twists in the ongoing saga, or drama, of living together. In any endeavor of this type, it is important to come together with those who are co-creating community with you and concisely state the purpose of your being with each other, what you hope to accomplish, and some basic structure for doing so. We suggest you study existing communities and see what is working and what is not with each one. Ask yourselves some basic questions. Are the people happy? Are they growing and evolving together? Do they make a positive difference in the world in some way? Are their basic physical needs met? Do they have healthy emotional expression? Are they encouraged to be human, as well as divine? Do the members have a sense of self-empowerment, as opposed to relying heavily on their leader, if one exists? Whether you are co-creating a new community or joining an existing one, ask yourself, is the financial and monetary structure working? Do individuals have a valid say in what goes on within committees and with leaders? What is the community's relationship with local towns, counties, shires or provinces? How do members handle conflict with each other and the world at large? Most successful communities have some sort of temporary membership provision that allows incoming souls to try out living there, and gives existing members a chance to get to know the prospective members. Some communities have several tiers, or levels, of involvement, ranging from temporary resident, to associate partner, to permanent member, etc., with each successive level giving rise to greater responsibilities and authority. It is important to have clear, concise agreements, written as well as oral, between members. This will minimize later surprises. For example, if the bylaws of the community state that each member must contribute at least 10 hours per week of service to the community, this must be communicated up front with prospective new members. There will need to be a work chart or other structure in place showing the various duties and responsibilities, i.e., job slots that must be filled. Leadership groups and councils should be flexible and reevaluate the jobs periodically to make sure priorities are in order. After all, 20 people each spending 10 hours per week in the garden during the off-season is probably not a wise allocation of human resources. More on community councils. This section is not designed to be an exhaustive dissertation on how to run an intentional community. There are many good books on the subject. We suggest you peruse the internet and do some research. Visit the Fellowship for Intentional Communities website. Nevertheless, we will make a few brief points below. The purpose of a community council is to facilitate the decision-making process of a group of souls. If your community consists of 12 people, you might want to have each person be a council member. Then all of you meet regularly, maybe once per week, to discuss issues common to all of you, and, just as important, to provide support to one another physically and emotionally. You might begin your meeting with taking care of business. A ditch needs to be dug, or a well drilled, or solar panels installed. You need to decide on whether or not to admit a new member who wants to join. You need to discuss your financial balance. Next, members will come forth with more personal needs. There could be a space provided to share spiritual insights or visions for the community, or just inner experiences that want an audience. Certain ground rules will be in effect to prevent some souls from monopolizing the energy or discussion, and to encourage the more introverted members to express and contribute. Certain agreements are necessary to keep council meetings brief and to the point. Every person demands respect. You might use the talking stick approach, meaning that the person with the talking stick is allowed to talk and everyone else simply listens until a comment period starts. Most of you are quick to react to what is being said without first fully listening, with all your senses. The talking stick helps you tune in with your whole being to the person speaking. You will need to draw up some sort of bylaws or procedures, such as whether decisions are made by consensus, majority, or some other manner. There needs to be a procedure in place for handling conflict or dissenting views. It may be basic psychology, but members need to be reminded that the behavior does not define the person. In other words, you can disagree with a member's behavior and still see that person as a beautiful, innocent child of God. Coming back into balance with nature. Your intentional communities will consist of 4th and 5th density members. Most of you will be vibrating at 4th density, but a few of you will have crossed into a consciousness primarily dominated by 5th density vibrations. As you grow and evolve, you will come to know your Mother Earth as a vital, living being. You will communicate deeply and intimately with her. As you clear your emotional and psychological issues, you will have less and less obstructing you from hearing Mother Earth as she shares her wisdom with you. Not all of you in the community will have the same level and connection with the Earth. One of the topics that will inevitably be brought to the Council involves how to treat Mother Earth with respect and how to live harmoniously with her. We have observed eco-villages that are actually too strict when it comes to recycling, reusing, reclaiming, and respecting the Earth, to the point where the joy goes out of living. On the other hand, there are a lot of well-meaning communities that pay lip service to responsible stewardship of the Earth and her resources. Until your alternative energy transportation systems are fully in place, you may, for example, use solar, wind and hydropower to run your community, but still use fossil fuels to drive to the store 30 kilometers away. In such a case, you might have as one of your goals, to obtain a fleet of hybrid cars running on both fossil fuels and electricity. It is important to set realistic goals and to achieve a balance point between extremes. This might include leaving the smallest carbon footprint possible, while still having a lot of fun and variety. As you become one with all living things, these considerations will work themselves out with minimal effort. It will simply feel good to recycle, rather than forcing it on everyone. Giving up red meat will happen naturally, rather than feeling like a sacrifice. Nobody will be in judgment about these things, but they will simply emerge as common sense practices. Over the next 30 years, new technologies will be introduced to the 4th density souls to enable them to clean up the polluted environment left behind by fossil fuels and other exploitative lifestyles. Electric cars will replace internal combustion engines. Hydrogen fuel cells will be manufactured safely and cheaply. Eventually, zero-point energy will be harnessed on a mass scale. At some point, the 4th density souls will be ready to venture back into the 3rd density world to restore beauty and harmony to burned-out or collapsed buildings, sewage dumps, toxic landfills, and rotting and decaying remnants of the consumerist society that will have self-destructed somewhere between now and 2030. It will take some time before the 4th density souls will be truly ready to walk anywhere on the Earth without becoming subjected to negativity. Since the Earth's vibration will continue to rise, the process of clearing negativity will become faster and more efficient. A day will come, beloved creators, when you will truly experience the heaven on earth that you have all been promised.